Oh, hello, YouTube. Today on the Naughty Library, we're going to be going over my best and least best books I read in 2022. So when the chips have settled, I read 136 books in 2022, which is not too shabby. And of those 136 books, it was hard to narrow it down, but I narrowed it down as much as I could. So these are my absolute faves and my absolute least faves. I'll have a separate video just devoted to the romances because that's its own vibe. These are all of the other books besides romance. So on that note, let's get going. Let's start off with the best books. Why not? I always like to start with the good stuff before we devolve into the less good stuff. In no particular order, I have Iron Widow by Xiran J. Zhao, and I love this. I've already pre-ordered the sequel, and it is like sci-fi, but also kind of based on ancient China and some of their mythology, but mixed with like Pacific Rim. And also there's a throuple, and I was obsessed with it. So good. I'm not really here to do a full review of it. I'm just kind of letting you know what my favorites were. And this one, ooh, chef's kiss. So good. Loved it to bits. And a throuple. I love a good throuple. Also on my list is August Kitco and the Mechas from Space by Alex White. Oh boy, do I love Alex White books. So Alex White wrote the Salvager series, which is incredible and I recommend it highly. And this is the next series by them, and this one is following August Kitco. He is a jazz musician, and he gets wrapped up in saving the world. Basically, there are these mechas from space, like a vanguard, and they're coming to Earth to destroy it. And when they get to Earth, one of the vanguard hears August playing a tune, and takes a liking to it. So he's like, hey, August, guess what? We're gonna be friends. Sticks August in his mecha body. Now they're like combined. So basically these mechas from space have like their own civil war happening as well. So some mechas are good, some mechas are want to destroy the Earth. It's it's gonna be either or. But oh boy, love this. Also, Gus's love interest is Ardent Violet, which is the best name for a rock star, and they are just like the most extra but awesome person. So like, yes, love Ardent Violet. And it's just like so much fun to read. Also on the list is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This one, oh my gosh, such an immersive world this is. But basically there is this like island nation, and its inhabitants are able to, like, basically jade, they, like, input it into their bodies or they wear it in jewelry. Basically, jade makes them, like, better, stronger, faster. It expands their consciousness or makes them super strong or faster. It's like superheroes, kind of. And there's ups and downs with this. There's, like, a black market jade trade. There's also people who are addicted to it and it kind of warps them. It's really a fine line with this. It's very kind of scientific, but it's really at its heart, it's a family drama. So think like The Godfather in Hong Kong with superpowers. If that sounds like a good time to you, then oh boy, you should pick up Jade City. It's a good time. And it's really, the selling factor here is the good family drama. So yeah, if you're a Godfather fan and a fantasy fan, this is your baby. I also really love Thistlefoot by GennaRose Nethercott, and this was a debut. And it's like one of those authors that's gonna be like, you're either gonna really love it or you're not gonna like it. It's a bit of an acquired taste, I will say that. But I really like this kind of writing style. And honestly, a couple more books on this list have similar writing styles. So this is just like a me thing. It's like catnip. But Thistlefoot is kind of a Baba Yaga reimagining a bit, and it deals a lot with like generational trauma and magic and finding yourself and a lot of other things. There's a lot of magical elements in the story, but we're following the Yaga siblings. Baba Yaga was one of their relations from a while ago. Now they're doing their best, and they inherit Thistlefoot, which is Baba Yaga's house on chicken legs. And they have to defeat a very, very scary demon. Oh boy, like it's a very scary villain in here. It's definitely a horror book, but wow, it's really good, and it goes into a lot of really heavy subject matter, so maybe check trigger warnings before you read it. But ooh, I love it. Generational trauma, but make it horror. Love this to bits. I also have Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey on this list, and Sarah Gailey is also one of those acquired taste authors. I feel like if you really like Sarah Gailey's writing style, you're gonna automatically kind of like whatever they put out, but if you don't like the writing style, it's gonna be difficult. So it's one of those, but I tend to like it quite a bit. It's like deliciously dark and evil. This one in particular, following this woman, she comes home after a really long time to this house that she never really wanted to come back to. It's her childhood home. The problem with the home is that her father was a serial killer who took his victims to the basement, and that's where he killed them. And it's a lot, again, generational trauma, but make it horror. Maybe I have a theme here for this. But yeah, it's a lot of like unpacking like family trauma and also horror. There's a lot of body horror in this. There's a lot of like actual, like, is it a ghost? Is it a demon? I don't know. Like, oh, am I being haunted by my past or actually haunted? One of those things. I like that it has kind of an ambiguous ending. So I loved it quite a bit. Trigger warnings, of course, it has some dark content. And let's just keep this like generational trauma but make it horror train going with Our Crooked Hearts by Melissa Albert, another acquired taste author. So this one is it's a mother and daughter story, and they're both kind of being told concurrently when the mother was 17 and when the daughter is 17. And basically the mother got into like some deep witchcraft stuff, and the ramifications of things that she did when she was 17 are now coming back into play now when her daughter is 17. So it's a lot of like mother and daughter at ends and witchcraft, and also trying to come back together and defeat like a common enemy. There's a lot of things going on in this one, but I think if you like were also a child of the 90s and you loved The Craft, you know, that movie, oh man, are you gonna love this. So I really quite enjoyed it a lot. It's an acquired taste author, but if you like it, you really like it. So it was a hit for me. I loved it. Also on the list is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. And I guess maybe you could call Anne Rice an acquired taste author because her books are very specifically her writing style. But I had to put it on the list. It's kind of the book that started it all here. And I just always wanted to read it, and I did. And then you guys all liked me getting drunk and talking about it. And I was like, I should do more of these. So I just kept going. And I've read so many books by Anne Rice now. And I watched the show and did recaps. So it's kind of started a lot for me. So it has sentimental value. But also genuinely, Interview with the Vampire is quite good. It's quite dark. I think it like enjoys how dark it is. It's like finding beauty in it because it enjoys being deliciously dark. So I like that vibe. Gothy AF, but like super into it. And like the first book is just really, really good. I think every book afterward gets consistently weirder. So the first book's solid. Solid first book though. Another favorite is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L.Polk. This was a surprise hit for me. I read another book, Witchmark by C.L.Polk. Wasn't super into it. And then I got this book from the publisher, and I was like, let's try it out. It's a novella. It's short. And oh my gosh, am I obsessed with it. Like, I just keep thinking about it, like probably once a week, every week since I read it. It's kind of like a noir alternate history kind of story where we're following this woman. She's kind of like a private detective. But in this world also, magic is real. And there's like, you know, magical academies and where like racism and sexism are like a thing, you know, it's America in the 40s. We had our problems. So it's kind of doing what America was like in this time period, but also dropping magic in and like, how would that change things? And our gumshoe, she has to find a killer who's been killing people in horrendous ways and doing like these big rituals. What's going on with it? And she's on the case because if she solves it, she gets her soul back. She sold her soul. This is her one shot to get it back. And she really wants her soul back because she's in love with this woman and she wants to stay with her. Otherwise, her ticket's up. So it's got stakes. It's got great paranormal stuff. It has amazing world building. I loved all the characters. I hope this author writes more in this universe. I would have read this book if it was 3 times as long. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm obsessed with it. Also making my list is Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchiakovsky, and this was a Blaze and Bodice Rippers pick for 2022, and I really, really enjoyed it. Basically, this book is like kind of like Pride and Prejudice meets Napoleonic Wars meets magic, and like if you just combine those 3 things, already I'm very intrigued. And this one is kind of like, what if Lizzie Bennet went to war? And she does. It's like this young woman, she has to go to war. She was like a aristocrat. She was a part of the Ton. And, you know, things are tough. There's a war on. And she goes to the front. She actually ends up being a war hero. Things happen. There's magical stuff happening as well in the swamps. There's this horrible piece of land they're fighting over that nobody wants. So there's a lot of layers to this book if you want to go into all of the themes here, but we're not doing it in this video. But I really like it. If you think like Pride and Prejudice would be better with magic and then also action from war stuff, this is the book for you. Last book on my best list is Thunderball by Ian Fleming. It was my goal to read all of the Ian Fleming James Bond books in 2022, and I did it. I will do full videos about them. It's a project that I keep putting off. I know, I'm the worst, but it'll happen because I'm just a huge James Bond nerd. So I had to pick at least one book of that series just to like represent the series. And my favorite James Bond book was Thunderball. It is so fun. It's maybe not the most well-known of the James Bond books, but like, it's so good. It's funny. James is in the Bahamas. He's trying to solve someone stealing a nuclear missile. And there's a lot of spy stuff. A great heroine. Love her. Lots of like battles underwater. There is a movie version of it, and the movie does take liberties with the book, but this one's really fun, and there's a lot of funny content in it. I think it's probably the funniest one. If you're looking for jokes, like this one's got the jokes, and it's just really good. I love Thunderball to bits. All right, so now let's switch gears. We're gonna move over to my least faves of 2022, and these aren't necessarily bad books. They're just books I didn't personally enjoy. So take it for what it is. Let's just dive in. First things up on the list, I have The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. Hot damn did I hate this. Oh my word. I mainly read it because I know the show is coming out, the Mayfair Witch show, and I wanted to have some basis for comparison when I watched the show. And oh my gosh, this is 965 pages of gross sex. Like all of the gross sex you can think of. It's probably in this book. And it's 965 pages and only probably 300 pages of plot. Most of the book, I say a good 500 pages, is probably just the history of all of the Mayfair witches. All of them, since ever. Just a history book in the middle of it. And then like another 100 pages is like home remodeling and like what drapes they picked. And it's like, oh my god, I don't care about your fucking drapes. But anyway, and then that's just not even saying anything about the plot, because the plot of the book is insane. It's insane. There's a video about this already on the channel, but like, oh my word, did I not get on with this book. Next up, I have The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, and this was for the Blaze and Bodice Rippers book club. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, and the choices that were made in the storytelling didn't appear to make the story any better. Like the time period is being told in, it didn't feel like that time period. It takes place in Mexico in like the late 1800s, and like everyone's wearing like period piece wear, but like no one talks about it. Really, no one talks about the clothing or like anything of the time period. So like, why set it then? You could have set it in the 40s or something, which is where it kind of feels. It feels much more modern, and I think it would have been much more interesting if it was set a little later. And I mean, there's a ghost in it that I was waiting for like good spooky scares, and I didn't really get any, and like I didn't really go anywhere. So like, this is a book I really wanted to like, and I think it has a good idea. It just didn't really work. I mean, it's based off Rebecca, and like I read Rebecca and I didn't really like Rebecca anyway, so like maybe I was just going in here kind of is not my jam, but I was hoping for the best. Also on this list is A History of Wild Places by Shea Ernshaw. I really can't review it because I DNF'd fairly quickly. And here's the thing. I read another book by Shea Ernshaw and I DNF'd it for the exact same reason I DNF'd this one. So I'm thinking it's just like her writing style and my reading style are just not compatible, but it doesn't make it a bad book necessarily. It's just like I didn't care about anything happening in the book. I didn't like how the story was being told. And it was basically the same reason as the last book, where basically she was telling a really compelling story and then she stops telling it to go tell another story. And it's like, no one gives a shit about those other people. Keep talking about the shit that people like. Like, why are you changing the story all of a sudden? And this is like the exact same reason I DNF both of them. So it is what it is. I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. I've heard good things about it, but I just wasn't getting on with it. Keeping on that DNF train, I have Small Angels by Lauren Owen. This is one I picked up and I started reading and just viscerally hated. I hated the writing style, and I'm sure it's a fine book. I don't think there's a problem with it. It's just like not the vibe for me. And this was like a book club pick for my patrons, and luckily my patrons are lovely people and said, okay, you don't have to read it if you really hate it. Thank goodness, because oh my gosh, did I hate it. It was so, I just couldn't stand reading it. I mean, I think if you like gothic horror and vibes, like you could maybe get into it, but like for me, I just was not in it. And again, keeping the DNF train going for one more stop, I have Extasia by Claire Legrand. And this one hurts because like one of my all-time favorite books is Saw Kill Girls by Claire Legrand, which is horror, and I loved it. And this is Claire Legrand back doing horror, and I was like, yes, give me this book. And I started reading it, and like I hated it, and I just kept waiting. I was like, no, she's not gonna do me dirty. Like, I'll keep going. I'm just gonna keep going. It's gotta get good. And like, it does not. And then the big twist at the end was stupid. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, I cannot with this. And it was just overly heavy with its metaphors about like misogyny. And like, I get it. You did Saw Kill Girls that also dealt with misogyny, but that one was good. So, yikes, this one was just really bad. As soon as the twist happened, I was like, no, fuck you. And I put it down. I was so close to finishing it, and I was so upset I didn't finish it. So yeah. This one hurt. I really wanted to like it. So my goal in 2022, as you know, was to read all of the Ian Fleming James Bond books, and there were some misses in there too. They are a product of their era. There's a definite yikes factor to all the books. But the one that was the most yikes was The Spy Who Loved Me by Ian Fleming. I really hated having to read this one. James is barely in it for starters. It's from another perspective. And it's just like, I don't think Ian Fleming is the correct author to write a book about a woman's sexual trauma. Like, I don't think this was his book to write. And it was thankfully short. It wasn't that long, but like, James is barely in it. It made me in such a slump with the series. I took like several weeks off before I kept reading in the series because this one, like, I hated. So yeah, not fun. It has nothing to do with the movie. So just be aware, The Spy Who Loved Me, fun movie. I really like the movie. Nothing to do with the book. 0% similarities. So let's just keep on this like classics train now. We've left the DNF train, we're on the classics train. So we're gonna move over here to The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I'm just gonna say it. I don't like The Great Gatsby. I said what I said. I get it. F. Scott Fitzgerald beats you over the head with his metaphors, and I know it has layers, and a lot of people love the book. And I am genuinely happy that you love the book. Just like, stop telling me I'm dumb because I don't like it. That's basically where I am with it. I don't like his writing style, and I've tried to read other things by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I hated them just as much. So it's just like, I feel like his writing is very pretentious, and I don't vibe with it, and I don't like it. It's fine. The Great Gatsby is also full of people who are just awful. And like, I think the whole point of The Great Gatsby is to not like The Great Gatsby. You shouldn't like any of the stuff in the book. He's writing things about horrible people doing horrible things on purpose. I think the whole point of it is to not like it. And I think people have missed the point. Anyways, I'm gonna stop ranting about The Great Gatsby. That's its whole other video. But moving on. One more classic I was just not into was As You Like It by William Shakespeare. This one made no sense, and it wasn't just because I was high. I did high Shakespeare for this one, and like, I don't think it would have made any sense sober either. It just, I don't understand any of anyone's character choices. I know it's supposed to be funny, but like it wasn't, and I was very confused. Albeit I was high, but you know what? I stand by what I said. I think if I was sober even, I still wouldn't have liked it. It's not cute. So yeah, not the vibe for that one. Moving on from the classics train, I have Real Easy by Marie Rutkowski. And this was another one that hurt. I pre-ordered this. It was an adult book, so it cost a lot more money than her normal books, because her normal books were like YA, so they're cheaper. This one I paid like $26 for, and I pre-ordered it. I was so excited. It was her first adult murder mystery, and I was like, yes, I love Marie Rutkowski. And then I was reading this one, and I DNF'd it, honestly. I'm back to the DNF train. I get it, what she was trying to do, but like, I don't think anyone needed that done. Like, why would you write this character who's very flawed and sympathetic only to have them like get killed off horribly? Like, it's a murder mystery. That's not a spoiler, okay? People are gonna die in it. It's a murder mystery with like a serial killer. And I wanted to love it, and I didn't. I really wanted to love this, and I paid full price for this book, so I'm also bummed about that too. Last up on my least favorite list is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Back on the DNF train. I just didn't like the writing style at all. And I know this is like a really well-liked book. Everyone likes it. I'm the unpopular opinion here. It's just like, I really could not vibe with this writing style. It annoyed me. And I was like, I read like so many pages of this book, like probably 100 pages of it, and I had no idea what was happening. And I was focused. Like, I read so much of this book and I had no idea what was happening. I don't think anything happened, and I was annoyed, and I just gave up on it. So I wanted to like it too. It's not just, I'm sorry. I really wanted to like this one, and I wasn't vibing with it. All right, so that does it. Those are my tops and my bottoms for 2022. Overall, it was a really good year. I read some amazing stuff. The things I didn't like as much, I pretty much just DNF'd. I moved on with my life, and I'm actually happy for that. I don't need to read things I'm not interested in. I can just stop reading them. That's like a good thing I've picked up in 2022. It's okay to DNF. Let me know in the comments down below. If you had to pick one, what was your favorite and your least favorite read of 2022? I know that's a really hard question, but if you got an answer, leave it in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want cool exclusive content, including a book club and early access to videos, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.